the ear and the left ear?
That's how we feed it back because, right.
And so you have to be aware if there is any difference in the two sides? Or?
No, your brain actually is forced into resolving whatever that difference is, and you actually hear it. No one's ever even explained how it is that a person can hear that because it's something that's not even there. It's only the difference between these two signals, but the corpus callosum actually has to make up the difference and you actually hear it. So like if you hold this ear away, you hear wah, you hold this ear away, you hear wah, but you put them together and you hear wah, 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 with that wah, wah being the difference between the two, and it forces the brain into resolving the difference. So it's like the ultimate biofeedback. We actually call it psiofeedback instead of biofeedback because biofeedback only really looks at the physiological changes going on. Right. Psiofeedback looks at the mental, emotional, and the spiritual aspects of what's going on as well. And all that's built into the Portacle over here. So.
And how does this vary from binaural beats? I've not been drawn to that.
Okay, so. Because yeah, that's an old technology back from the 70s, really. And in that case, they use it for entrainment. So they want to entrain the brain into a particular brainwave state, like alpha or theta or delta or whatever. And so what they do is they put one frequency in this ear and a different frequency in this ear. And the difference between the two, they can drive the brain into that frequency. So if you put 100 hertz here and 107 hertz here, the difference is 7 hertz and the brain starts vibrating in an alpha state of 7 hertz. What we've learned from our technology is that the highest states of mind are expanded states of mind. They're not focused into one of those bandwidths. The whole brain is on fire in alpha, delta, theta, and beta, and all those different ranges. And so our technology is built to really kind of expand the person's brain waves into all of those states at the same time instead of locking them into one of them. So instead of binaural beating, we use another process that we basically have created ourselves and have coined the word for it ourselves, which is binaural phasing. So in our case, we would have the same frequencies in each ear. And in fact, having access to this new technology, we can have up to 30-some-odd thousand frequencies in each ear, whereas everybody else in this industry is just stuck with the one fundamental frequency. We can have all the overtones and everything, their entire voice, separated into these real and imaginary components.
An individual's particular...
Right, they're speaking right into it. They're speaking right into it.
So it varies from individual to individual?
Totally, absolutely. Everyone's totally different. So we separate those two, put one in this ear and the other in this ear, and it basically does the same thing as the binaural beating. It forces the brain into resolving the difference, but the frequencies are the same in our case. In our case, they're just out of phase with each other. This one's carrying the real phase, and this one's carrying the imaginary phase. The body over here and the operator of the body over here. And it forces the brain into resolving the difference between those two aspects of themselves.
And what is the purpose of the visual?
The visual is that multisensory is much more effective than just a single sense. There's a part of the brain that looks for correlation between all the senses. And so if you're hearing the same thing that you're seeing, the same thing that you're feeling, the same thing that you're smelling or whatever, it becomes more of a sensory coherent experience. So the more senses you get involved in it, the more effective the whole process is. So what we're doing is we're taking that sound that we're sending to the left and the right ear, and then we're drawing it in Cartesian space where this is the cosine plane, this is the sine wave plane. So whatever frequency, any individual frequency, whatever its coefficients are between a sine wave and cosine wave, it'll plot on there somewhere. And then we use that as a mask, a time domain mask, to see what does that look like on the other side of the quantum veil by shining a pure white light through it and putting a screen on the other side. And that screen is what a person watches in there. And so it's basically what does their intention look like on the other side beyond the quantum in the spectral domain, to where it's all just mathematically laid out. And so it's like it becomes like an intentional palette. Our
does one's palette change as one gets more?
Oh yeah, you can see it in real time immediately. You can sit there and you say blah 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 to it, and it just goes white and there's no patterning. But you start saying beauty and wonder and excitement and consciousness and goodness, and you start talking positive into it, and you immediately see there's tons of patterns and everything that starts developing from it.
So let's say if I say beauty today, and then I use the program for a month, will the same pattern appear? No.
No, because the human being is so dynamic, it's changing every millisecond. Every millisecond, and that was our biggest challenge all along. Is we've been doing this for 20 years, but up until 3 months ago, it was based on a stated moment. So the person would make a stated intention, and then we would send that over the internet to our supercomputer and process it, send it back. But all the feedback, all the data was based on that one moment. And it was very limiting because we know that the human being is extremely dynamic. And even with just one little concept of, like, say, the person they're married to, and they start talking about the person they're married to, for one moment they're like all excited and happy, but then and the next they're getting to the parts that they're not so happy about, right? So it's hard to get a meaningful thing out of a momentary thing like that. But we did it for about, we made it available. I think we started in 2001, and up until about 3 months ago we've been making that available, and we've had tremendous success at helping people transform themselves. But now it's in real time, and nobody has to come see me. It works on their own computer, and they can use it whenever they want, for as long as they want, forever, unless we come up with something better later.
And is this torsion field?
This is a torus.
So
this is a torus. We're looking at the top of the torus.
I see.
In fact, I could show you those images that I was telling you about over there. I told you we shine the light through the portacle and then put a screen behind it. But it's not really a screen because it's so dense you can't even see it. It's a 12-dimensional theory, actually superstring theory. So what we actually have to do is, on the other side of that projection, there's a lens that refocuses it down into a 0-dimensional point and puts it in the vertex of a 12-dimensional torus. And then it unfolds that torus to where you see the cross-section of it, and that's what the image is.
I see. Okay.
Most people, I would never explain that to because it's like, whoosh,
No, I mean, this is why,
So we would have been in the, did you see the Thrive movie?
No.
So you should maybe go online and try to find that, because it was all about the toroidal code and how that's about to be the big next thing in science, how this toroidal code explains everything that's going on.
Is your system flexible enough to change if there is change to the toral system?
Oh yeah, in fact some of the advanced versions of it actually allow you to see your own toroidal space. And when you move out of phase in any way, it contorts into different specific shapes. So you can see it'll twist itself, or it'll cave in on itself, or it changes. So I can actually show you over here.
When you do that, I'm going to ask a silly question. So one has this software, and basically it is for you to sort of auto-analyze yourself at a particular moment.
Yes, it's like the most profound tool for meditation and personal development I think ever created.
So you could go with a particular topic in mind,
exactly.
or attitude or moment.
Exactly. Exactly. So the next version of this coming, this is just the toroidal space as I'm speaking into it now, and it's plotting that, it's shining it through the portacle. In fact, I'll show you, this is the portacle. So this is where it gets plotted out. It's reading what I'm saying now and a lot of the things that are going on in the room right now. And then we're going to shine a pure white light through that and get this image. We call this the matrix. We can't prove it, but we call this the spectral essence of a person. This is what it's spectrally projecting. But what that really comes from is that I take this and I shine the light through that, and I put a lens behind it and populate this torus. And then I unfold that torus into that image. So we can kind of look at any of the, I can look at any of the different directions of this or whatever. And then the next version of this, it'll actually plot the changes in the toroidal field, so you can see it when it goes out of phase. It'll start contorting the field, and it'll actually read that for you and tell you which contortion that is. and what's happening to yourself to do that.
Okay, so it is a flexible.
Yes, and this down here is really amazing. This is called the Neuro Computer, and it's something that we'll release in the next few months. But it's a little band that you wear around your head, and it doesn't do EEG. It just takes the raw data right off of the brain, and it applies a technology that's similar to what's being done at the Noetic Society. Are you familiar with Dean Radin's work in the Entangled Minds, where they have those random number generators around the world? Well, guess what? There's a computer out there that's like 1,000,000 times more accurate about all that than the little random number generators, and it happens to be the human brain. And so we have this whole built in right here to where you put that band on and you're immediately connected into the collective conscious. And you can read the energy within yourself or on the whole planet. You can start seeing all kind of state of being indices, like how aware are you? Are you focused outwardly? Are you focused inwardly? Where's your integration? Are you feeling connected to everything? Or are you feeling separated from everything? Where's your energetics? Are you really relaxing, or are you still holding on to something? Where's your time orientation? Are you in the present moment? Or are you dwelling on something that's in the past, or projecting something into the future? So you can start seeing all these, what we call state of being indices, that allow you to see how you are in that moment. So all you have to do is just sit down and start breathing into it and thinking about those things, and you can see immediately what happens to your energy field just by having a thought. Does that make me more aware, or does that make me feel more connected, you know, and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Just roughly, like it's a
Okay.
Why do you have a black hole at the center?
Well, it's a torus,
Oh,
and
so
on
that's
this
a
side,
torus.
that's a black hole. On the other side, it's a white hole. Well, if you start reading all that, you kind of get the idea, you know, that there's a white hole and a black hole there, because it's really a torus, and we're just looking at a two-dimensional version of it.
Very good. So now I have a better sense, because I went inside and I really didn't. I couldn't.
Well, you know,
quite understand.
it's weird because it's not really all that complicated, but it's complex enough that if you don't get the whole story step by step, you get lost. And that's the problem with life. Life is like that too, you know. It's not really all that complicated, but if you don't get the story of how it all comes together, you know, one step at a time, and understand it, you can't make sense out of it. The same thing with all of
We get a
this.
copy of this when we get the software or not?
Well, you know what? If you may actually, if you use this, you may actually come up with something that is even better than that. That's what I think.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating.